Faza'il A'mal, More Trouble Than It's Worth. Part 12. The Strange Approach of Sheikh Zakariyya.
Because the accusations that have been levied upon Sheikh Zakariyya rahimahullah ta'ala and upon Faza'il A'mal are from these people. So you need to know who these people are. So over the last few years, we have seen the rise of a sect who in the Western world call themselves Salafis. Salafis meaning followers of the Salaf, followers of the pious predecessors. And in India and Pakistan they call themselves Ahle Hadith, the people of Hadith. In reality, respected brothers and elders, the beliefs of these people, the beliefs of the Salafis.
The speaker is an individual called Mufti Asad Waqas, and being a TJ cult follower, he is very lacking when it comes to academic rigor. The lecture is called Faza'il A'mal, Misconceptions Answered, and it's well worth a listen to see the sheer number of incorrect, fallacious, wrong analyses that he makes. And I include things like terminologies, names, individuals, a lack of understanding of what hadith is, what hadith sciences is. So the more these individuals try to defend their cult and their sect and their scholar, the more embarrassing the situation becomes, because the material is extremely lacking. And I only bring these individuals to show you the sort of low-level argumentation that they bring. In any case, enough with them. Let's look at an academic, the author of the thesis that is in front of us, and how he academically analyzes Sheikh Zakariyya's work. And here we have on page 193 the issue of Sheikh Zakariyya totally not using authentic sources and going to inauthentic sources, not mentioning names and the like. It says, in any case, it is strange of the author to adopt this method, while in fact he does not have to, as the sources from which he can select the known authentic ahadith are various and abundant. Yet this stance can be justified in the sense that he may have leniently borrowed those ahadiths, since they are related to the fields of Fada'il A'mal, At-Targhib wa Tarhib, where some scholars might be lenient with the weak ahadith in these fields. So he makes a value judgment of Sheikh Zakariyya, and he says it is strange of the author to do what he has done. And that's all I want to prove here. In the next part, he also describes him as being eccentric. So Sheikh Zakariyya, far from being a competent hadith scholar, is strange in the way, according to Sheikh Turkistany, how he conducts his research and his hadith material. In any case, enough with the TJ and enough with the FA and enough with Sheikh Zakariyya. Now, I want to bring your attention to a thesis that I mentioned previously, and this was one done by Dr. Fahad al-Hamoudi, and it was called the common link theory, which was a theory proposed by an individual called Shat. And in the contents page of this thesis, there is this page, and it says, criticizing Shat's interpretation of the common link phenomenon. And he gave 4 separate categories and 4 separate sections. The first was unfamiliarity with rijal works, which is biographical literature, and also that's referred to as prosograpical literature by one scholar called Scott Lucas. The second thing is misapprehending mustalah al-hadith, or hadith terminology or nomenclature. The third is distinction between matan and isnad, and the fourth is flaws in Shat's methodology, critical analysis gone awry. Now hitherto, the Gletkin-Rubishov channel, we have discussed Matan and Isnad, and we have discussed Sha', and we have discussed Fahad al-Hamoodi's common link phenomenon. But we have not mentioned the first thing, which was rijal works. So here today, I want to introduce you to the concept of what rijal works are. And this itself is a huge topic, and I make no claim to have any form of coverage of this topic. My job is simply to open some doors so you can read these works for yourself, and fortunately I have 3 separate works that are all at a doctoral level, and they cover the breadth of the type of research done in rijal literature. And the first one that I will go through is probably the most complicated to understand, because it offers and it tries to bring a whole new science of rijal. And this was a doctoral thesis that was submitted to the University of Chicago at Illinois in 1991. And it was done by a doctor called Iftikhar Zaman. It's called The Evolution of Hadith Transmission, Growth and the Science of Rijal in Hadith of Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqas. And that was a doctoral thesis. In any case, what this particular thesis deals with is rijal literature, and how rijal literature, or the literature of evaluating the qualities of narrators, is within the Islamic tradition. And here on page 96 of this doctoral thesis, he has the following to say. In the classical tradition of hadith scholarship, the literature evaluating the qualities of narrators, known as rijal literature, is seen as an essential guide for the one who would study hadiths. Scholars in modern Western tradition of hadith criticism have also paid some attention to the rijal literature. However, the use of rijal literature in the modern tradition has been somewhat limited. Most often, an author will have recourse to the rijal literature in order to determine the geographical area of operation of a narrator, in order to determine, for example, the milieu in which a hadith was forged or became relevant and was circulated. And then you can pause this and read this for yourself. But what he seeks to do is to use an analytical method in order to determine a separate and put forth a separate science of rijal. And he divides it later on here into anecdotal material and analytical material. So again, that's just one page from a very detailed, complicated and convoluted thesis. So it's very detailed, and I will be using screenshots of his isnads in these series to see exactly the amount of detail that Dr. Zaman went into in order to do this. The other works that I'll be looking at would be the works of Professor Scott Lucas, and also the works, one that was submitted to the University of Glasgow in 2003, and that thesis will come. But there are works that I haven't referred to, and the one I'm thinking of in my mind is a work done by an Indonesian scholar called Dr. Fuad Jabali, which was done at the University of McGill. So there are works that I've touched on and works that I don't have the time to cover, but this is a burgeoning field. The field of hadith is very, very detailed, and for a person who wants to understand this, they should really read the material. And again, this work by Iftikhar Zaman is one such work. Stay tuned for many more parts.